Hey guys, Stanford here from the Robotics Network, and welcome back to another episode of FUNalysis. And today we're going to be taking a look at Pacific Northwest District Championship Finals match number 1. In this match, we have two incredibly strong alliances on either side of the field, and this match could be a preview of what we see at the championship level of play here for REEFSCAPE. These two alliances also play their cards when it comes to Algae in an extremely interesting way that I think is also worth taking a look at. So stay tuned for a very close look at this very interesting District Championship Finals match in this episode of FUNalysis. Alright folks, so as we get into this match, there might be something that looks a little bit confusing to those who kind of don't know what happened here at the District Championship. So I kind of want to give some context as to why you might be seeing what you're seeing. So you're seeing Alliance 3 down here and seeing 2910 right there. That might confuse some people. So I kind of want to give some context as to why we're seeing what teams we're seeing on the field right now. So both 2910 and 1778 would actually decline the number 1 seed at the Pacific Northwest District Championship. So they would actually be split up. These two teams were the two best teams there. So now they were actually going to be on opposite sides of the field, basically no matter what happened. So that was kind of an interesting thing that ended up creating this kind of chaos and creating this kind of much closer than anyone expected final series. I also want to just introduce the other teams here. So obviously we got 2910 over here on the Red Alliance side. And then they would go ahead and pick up team 2930 Sonic Squirrels as their first pick, and 7034 to be determined as their second pick. Meanwhile, on the Blue Alliance side, we've got 1778, who are kind of hiding behind the reef over here, Chill Out as the captain. They've also they picked up 9450 Velocity Raptors, who actually set a world record I think the previous day for this at the Pacific Northwest District Championship. So an incredibly strong pick from them from Chill Out. And then they would go ahead and pick up team 948 NRG as their second pick. So that's kind of who we've got here. Let's go ahead and just kind of go through Autonomous and see how it goes. It's going to go the way of Red, I think, as basically everyone expected. I do think it is interesting, the Autonomous that 2910 runs and that they ran through most of the playoff run. So they score on entirely the front face of the reef. So you can see 2910, if we back up a little bit here, they only ever score on the front face of the reef. And then as teleop starts, they kind of move away from there. So what they do is they score 2 on L4 first, and then 2 on L3 right afterwards. So this kind of gets out of the way out of the a lot of the common autonomous paths that you see in this game. So I think it's a very kind of creative strategy from them. You're going to be seeing that quite a bit. That's kind of a theme for this Red Alliance is 2910 basically doing exactly what they need to be doing to fill in the alliance's gaps and basically just complete, like, round out this alliance in an extremely interesting way, an extremely effective way as well. So you're going to be seeing as teleop starts, first of all, Red Alliance already has a big advantage. You're going to be seeing a big Algae focus on either side of the field. So 2910, who you can actually see picking an Algae up off the reef right now, are going to be focused entirely on Algae for basically the entire match. If I recall correctly, I believe they only score 1 or 2 coral in teleop, which is kind of crazy considering the caliber of team that 2910 is. But that just basically means that their 2 alliance partners are good enough to fill the reef. So we're kind of starting to see at this level that they're filling the reef is very much on the cards with just your first pick and your second pick. So I think Algae is a big part of this. And another thing is that both 2910 and 9450, who are in kind of an interesting spot right now, can both pick up Algae off the ground. So they want to minimize having that. 9450 are about to attempt to steal this Algae on the Red Alliance reef. It's not going to go well for them. They're going to get caught stealing right there. And you can see flags going up. Yeah, it didn't work out too well for them. They get caught stealing, and it kind of just, they give up and continue to work on Algae on their side of the field. So we're not that far in teleop right now, 1 minute and 52 seconds, and you can already see like the net action that's kind of gone up over here. On the Red Alliance side, 2910 is the only one going up to the net. Meanwhile, 1778, who you can see are going up here, they're kind of doing the more traditional-ish to this kind of part of the season, super cycle, which is scoring coral and then grabbing the algae that's like right there and going up to the net. That's kind of covering 9450, who it seems went to go steal and are a little bit shaken by that right now. But again, this part of the match is kind of all about algae. Yes, there's coral happening in the background. So on the Red Alliance side, 7034 are basically just going to pretend that algae doesn't exist at all, and they're just going to cycle back and forth on this face of the reef. 2930 are going to be very similar in that regard. They're going to do a little bit of dealgification, but basically this Red Alliance is just going to be pretending like coral is the only thing that's part of this game. They're basically going to be pretending like it's a regional or district event, finals match in like week two, and just kind of pretending algae isn't there. Meanwhile, 2910 is going to be going around and scoring as much algae as possible. So you're seeing that on both sides of the field. The Blue Alliance does have 2 robots going for algae, which is definitely putting them at a big disadvantage right now. You can see that the Red Alliance has a big coral advantage already compared to the Blue Alliance, because they've been kind of distracting themselves a little bit by going up for algae. But again, 2910 going up to the net, entirely focused on algae. Now here's where things get interesting. The Blue Alliance is very clearly trying to stop any algae from ending up on the ground whatsoever. You could see that with 1778 picking up algae off the reef. You can see that with 9450 also picking up algae off the reef. They are most likely trying to stop 2910 from doing something they're going to try to do later this match with this algae over here on the Blue Alliance side. 2910, very, very effective ground intake for algae. So they want to really try to stop 2910 from stealing algae. They're going to go try to do it, and you're going to see what that kind of looks like in a second. But the Blue Alliance is very clearly trying to stop algae from ending up on the ground, which kind of goes against them a little bit here. You can see that they have a big coral disadvantage because they've kind of been clogging themselves up with that. 2910 go up for one of their few teleop coral right there as they knock an algae off the reef. Meanwhile, speaking of knocking algae off the reef, the Red Alliance doesn't attempt to cover that. 2930 and 7034 as well, they just knock an algae off the reef with impunity, even though 9450 actually can pick it up off the ground as well. So they're not distracting themselves by trying to kind of overcomplicate things and stop algae from ending up on the ground. They just let it happen, and they can kind of catch 9450 stealing if they need to. But even then, they're saving so much time by not worrying about it that it's kind of proving to be very effective, and it kind of makes for a easier cycle for 2910 because they don't have to navigate around their partners to get to the reef that has the algae on it. So now the Red Alliance side is completely clear of algae. 2910 are going to put some coral on L1, and then you're going to see them make a beeline across this field to try to pick up this algae that's on top of the lollipop over here. So this, again, is kind of, we're starting to see the algae stealing start to happen. We saw it at other district championships. These two alliances know that algae is a big part of this game and is a lot of what makes the difference between alliances. We're starting to see a lot of teams fill up the reef relatively quickly. In fact, now that the Blue Alliance has actually stopped focusing on algae, they've tied up the number of coral. They're in different places, but they've actually tied up the number of coral scored. They're still down because of autonomous and, again, where these coral are scored. But the moment they stopped running that strategy of trying to stop algae from ending up on the ground, they catch up quite a bit. And you can see them start to do that as teleop kind of gets under a minute here. 2910 go and knock off that algae, but it bounces around. And it bounces around to the point where they kind of ignore it and just kind of go back. So it's really interesting to see them kind of not commit and not follow through. I think it's kind of smart from their part. Again, their driver station is right here, so this area of the field is particularly hard to see for them, so I get it. But it's interesting to see them kind of not follow through on it. So now they're just going to focus on L1 because the Red Alliance is about to finish off 2, 3, and 4. The Blue Alliance still is missing quite a few on L2, but in general, like these two alliances were more than good enough to fill up L3 and L4 and usually L2 as well. So that, again, that's why Algae was such a big part of the early part of this match, was because it's the difference maker, because it's zero sum. So if you can pick up an Algae, that means that they can't. So not only is it 4 points for you, it's 4 points you're denying them. So that's an 8-point differential. But it's also the difference maker, because we're running out of places to score on this reef. Yes, L1 is going to come into play at that point, but you can realistically, we've seen only get so much going on inside of that reef without it getting really clogged and really kind of annoying. Also, in kind of a funny thing, that Algae that 2910 went all the way over here to go grab, it actually managed to bounce to their side of the field, and they went and grabbed it anyway. So you can't stop 2910 even if you wanted to. So in-game kind of approaches. So what's interesting here is 1778, who are on the Blue Alliance. They do not climb and haven't climbed for the entire season. So they're actually going to continue cycling on L1. Thing is, they've run out of enough places to score that they can't possibly score enough points to try to kind of make up for that. So they know they're going to be down in that regard. This climb, unfortunately, doesn't count for 948 either, so that kind of puts the Blue Alliance at an even further disadvantage. But back to 1778, they're going to try an even crazier strategy in finals match number 2, where they're actually going to go through their cages and attempt to defend this Red Alliance from climbing. Like kind of 2022 style, we kind of saw that a little bit in that year. But yeah, it doesn't work either, and they actually pick up a, I'm not sure if it was deserved, contact foul there as well. But yeah, so endgame, again, this was kind of dominance on the Red Alliance's part in this match. 233, 214. These are still two insane scores on the other side of the field. And this is why I think this might be a preview of championship level play, because either of these scores would be good enough, more than good enough, to win a district event or a regional, or most regionals. So like, again, this is why I think this could be a preview of what championship looks like, because these are all extremely capable offensive robots, lots of ground intakes. And so, again, we see Algae also being the key difference maker between alliances as well. So what do you guys think this game will look like at the championship level? Do you think we'll see defense start to come back at high levels of play? Let me know what you guys think inside of the comments. Obviously, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the Fun Robotics Network YouTube channel. I've been Stanford. Thank you for watching this episode of FUNalysis.